Welcome to TOMGIRL, where we talk all things sports, entertainment, fashion, and adventure. On today's episode, we're diving into the worlds of entertainment and fashion with Kasey Kitchen, CEO of Marque PR. Kasey has helped shape the careers of numerous celebrities and is a savvy business owner, growing her company from its LA roots to New York and now a new branch in Atlanta. She is also one of the most fashionable women that I know. Welcome to the show, Kasey.
Thank you so much. That's the best intro ever.
Well, it's so nice to have you. So behind the scenes, you have been such a great supporter of Tom Girl because so many guests that I have had been fortunate enough to have on the show have come from you. So first, I just want to give a big thank you for like all the support and the love that you've shown this show for so long. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Well, let's dive into like your career because you now
Mhm.
have this growing, this great business, but you started out in the early days and you were actually a fashion writer. Can you talk about how your journey has grown?
Well, that was really brief. I actually started out as an actor and a dancer. That was like my passion. I had been a dancer since I was like 3 years old, started in ballet class and started to get really into it in high school doing dance competitions and those sorts of things. We used to come out to LA and train. And then I decided I wanted to pursue it professionally and moved to New York and, did that whole thing. And then it had a period where I started to realize one, dancers are not paid very well, and that needs to change.
Mhm.
Two, it was interesting trying to kind of make a living in New York City, which was such a hard city to live in, coming from Atlanta, Georgia, where you're kind of like taken care of. And I did have jobs, like I had little jobs in high school, as most people do. But when you're thrust into a big city like that, and then, you're just trying to make ends meet, like running from, job to job, audition to audition, it was a lot. And I loved it. And I met some of the most incredible people. I think coincidentally, New York City was a little bit more welcoming than LA. But I did get to a point where I realized my body would only take me so far, and it started to scare me a little bit because I didn't really know what I was going to do past the point of like, okay, what if I get injured? Because when you're doing Broadway shows, you're doing like 8 shows a week. And then when you're working, it's great. When you're not working, it's like, how am I going to pay the bills? So that whole stressful scenario made me kind of lean a little bit more into acting. And so I kind of took a step back from acting or a step back from dancing, got into acting. And that's what propelled me to move to LA. So I worked briefly on a soap when I first got out here,
Which
very,
soap?
very tiny. General Hospital.
Okay.
So I had this teeny, 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 tiny part on General Hospital, hoping that I would be able to have a bigger part. And they would just call me when they needed me for like maybe a year or so. And I was bartending at the time, like running back and forth from trying to go from, you know, days on set and then running to my bartending shift at night. So that was interesting. And then I had a moment, as many actresses do, where I had a moment where I had a very, very uncomfortable audition. And unfortunately, after I called my agent, it was a new agent that I had had. I had signed with an agency across the board who I had signed with in New York. And then when I moved to LA, they gave me a different like point agent. And unfortunately, when I called this agent after this uncomfortable audition, she I will say she said, call me when she said, talk to me about it when you have more credits or something to that
Um,
effect, basically. Or no, she said, I will care when you have more credits. And I was just like, what? And I think, it just, there was so much going on in my life at that time where I was just starting to have a very different view of the entertainment industry and this idea that we have, when we're younger, or like when we're just doing things because we're just passionate about them and we love them. It shifts when when you have to kind of fend for yourself and like feed yourself and create a life, and the instability of it and the inconsistency of it was something that I could not personally handle. It was not great for my anxiety. And then that situation that happened with the director and the agent of it all was kind of the nail in the coffin for
Yeah.
me, where I was like, I don't want any part of this world. And I went back to school, and after I finished school, I wanted to go into fashion. So that's where I had this like brief little stint, like consulting as a fashion writer. And that was really fun. Fashion was something that I really loved. And I thought that it was a world that I would do really well in. I've always loved fashion, but every time I would get close to an opportunity, it was like the door would shut. It was just like it was almost like the universe was like, nope,
Mm.
nope. And somebody had said to me, you're really good with people, entertainment. You'd be really great in PR if you thought about entertainment PR. And I immediately, that was just like a
Mhm.
no, you know? Absolutely not. And weirdly enough, I think one day out of just frustration, I sent two resumes out, and I got an interview and I got hired. I mean, it was so strange. It was like sometimes the things we resist the most, when we just surrender and let go and just like let everything kind of unfold the way it's supposed to, it works out in a way that we couldn't have expected.
Mhm.
But I will say I did promise myself when I entered this field, when I got into PR and when I started working as a publicist. I started out as a junior publicist, but I promised myself that I would be the kind of rep that I had wished that I had had, because having been on that other side, having been a struggling entertainer and somebody who'd been through some really creepy, weird, gross things that I'd experienced in auditions, and then also having agents that I didn't feel like really supported me. I wanted to be a better version of that. So, yeah, that's how I've just been trucking away, and here I am 10, 11 years later. So
How was it? When did you make the decision from working for another company and then deciding, you know what, I'm going to take this out on my own?
I worked for four different agencies. I started out as a junior publicist at one agency, and then, it was very small. It's really, really, really small company. And then I wanted to go bigger. So I did have an offer from one of the bigger agencies. And then surprisingly, out of nowhere, this other like smaller boutique agency kind of came to the plate. And it's so funny with PR, because it's always about money and clients, and well, how many clients do you have? Oh, I don't know if you hear the dogs barking. Excuse the dogs.
Oh, we'll talk about those
Uh,
dogs later too.
um,
They can make
uh,
cameos if they want to. They're
I,
welcome.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Um, 5 o'clock is when they start to get kind of antsy. So I was like, oh no, they're gonna. Anyways,
Rue might do that too because he does the
I
same thing. He's like,
I'm
it's walk time.
I know, I know. But I jumped around to a few different agencies, all, and no, not really for any reason of being unhappy per se. It's just kind of like sometimes when you feel stagnant and you're wanting to grow and you don't feel like you're getting the opportunity that you need, or that best serves you, you just have to make that decision. Sometimes there's situations where agencies will split, and you'll find like certain publicists will leave and go start their own company, and then they kind of, not necessarily recruit you per se, because you're not supposed to say that they do that, but that they do. They give you the option to come with them. And um, so that's kind of what happened. I went to a few different agencies, and then finally after the last one, I had this I've always wanted to start my own company, just because I work a little bit differently from everybody else. And in addition to doing entertainment, I do everything. So with a lot of other agencies, you'll find publicists that are like just entertainment or just handling lifestyle clients. And for me, um, I've always been trained to do everything, and I love working with different types of people. And so I just couldn't really find anywhere that I felt completely supported, and where I was able to operate the way that I wanted to. So I started Mark. So can you hear them barking? I literally might have to
They're not loud. It's not bad.
okay. So I have a new rescue, and literally dogs are so crazy, because they literally They know exactly when it's lunchtime. They know when it's walk time. They know when it's dinner time. They don't let you forget.
Yeah.
So they do this thing where they start chasing each other and running like crazy throughout my house. And it's always at 5 o'clock. And I gave them a special treat before this interview, hoping that they would behave. And Bentley, one of them just got neutered and they gave him sedatives. And I'm like, why don't I have any more of those pills?
You're
That
gonna
would,
give
that would have come in handy. So anyways, hopefully it's not too loud.
No, no, they're fine. And I, after watching them on Instagram, like I'm happy to have them pop in here because Bentley is just so cute. I mean, they're both Hope and Bentley, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
just so cute. So yeah, we'll have you share their stories too. They're like, yeah, Mom, we just want to pop in.
I know they do. They're like they're crazy. So I will tune them out right now.
That's fine. Okay, so you went and then when did you pull the trigger and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm ready to start my own business.
It was in the pandemic. There was so much uncertainty happening, and it was one of those things where the seed had been planted, and it wasn't anything like when I split off of the last agency and started my own. There was nothing malicious. There was nothing. It just for me, it just didn't feel like a fit. And we all have that, like whenever you have that voice or that calling or this like, you should do this, you should do this, kind of like this like thump in the head. Like it was like a voice that just kept getting louder, like this is your path, this is what you're supposed to do. So I started to just listen to it. And then as the pandemic started to unfold, I was just like, well, nothing is certain. Everything is up in the air. And, you just have to, you can go about life and be afraid of everything and never do anything and wonder what would happen, or you can just leap and take the chance. And so that's exactly what I did. And coincidentally, one of the publicists that I had worked with at another agency she had been working in production. She'd taken a step back from publicity because it was a little too much for her. And then I thought she was fantastic. She's a great publicist, Jen Lee. And I told her I was going to start my own company and I wanted her to come aboard. And she said, if I can do this with you, I will come back to PR. So she did. And gosh, 5 years later, here we are. We've added Tyler
Wow.
to the team. So yeah,
That's
pretty
incredible.
incredible.
Yeah. And then talk about now where you got to the point where you're gonna, in April next month, you're having a new
Hmm.
office open in Atlanta.
Yeah, that's really exciting. That's also something, being from Atlanta, I've had so many people kind of in my ear for a long time going, you need to come back to Atlanta. You need an office in Atlanta. And I think, I don't know, maybe when you're from a certain place, there's a part of you that's like, no, I've already done that. I don't want to go back. I don't want to feel like I'm going backwards. And I started looking at Nashville because there's so much. There's several publicists in Nashville. There's CAA has offices in Nashville. So there's a Soho House in Nashville. But it kind of it didn't make sense because despite having some clients in Nashville, and then of course there's the country music scene there, all of the filming is happening in Atlanta, and I literally counted up how many clients I have had over the last 3 years who've moved there, and I'm now I think at 13 or 14, and I think maybe one of them has ties to Atlanta, but the rest of them are literally just they were living in LA, got kind of fed up of this, high cost of living, crime increasing, schools, you name it, for their own reasons. They just decided to up and move, and they are all so happy. And they've all been going like, you have to come to Atlanta, you have to come to Atlanta. And so, um, every year at Christmas, I do this big cross country drive with my dogs, and I drive home and I spend a month with my family, with my parents. And so I work remotely from their house, and so I kind of got used to being able to do it and manage it with Jen and Tyler. And so we just, after really taking a close look at what's happening in Atlanta and seeing the lack of a PR presence and the lack of editorial presence there, I thought, this would be an interesting opportunity. So we decided to take the plunge. So I'll be going back and forth. So we open the office in April, and then I'll be going back and forth
Yeah,
between Atlanta and
congratulations.
LA. Thank you.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
has to talk about how that has to be exciting. I've heard it is called the Hollywood of the South. So maybe getting
Hmm.
in there and that with all the new opportunities there and having, now that so much
Yeah.
stuff has moved there, like you talked about, like what types of things that you excite you about that from a business standpoint of getting in there and bringing kind of what you've learned out here and with your presence in New York and taking that to a new city.
Hmm. It's really exciting, and it's fascinating because it's almost like I see the puzzle pieces of like really fantastic hair and makeup artists, really great stylists, really great photographers. There's some really great agents. Lauren Williams, who was an agent at ICM, went off she became a manager, and now she's in Atlanta and she's heading up formation talent. So she and I actually went to high school together. We both went to Brookwood High School in Atlanta, Georgia, Snellville, Georgia, to be specific. But she's a badass agent, and so I that was another. We had already kind of started the process with the Atlanta of it all, but when that announcement came out that she had returned to being an agent and she was there and doing her thing, I was like, okay, it's happening. You kind of feel the energy and the momentum of it, and so it's actually a beautiful thing now because now I feel like I get to go back and experience what it's like to have East Coast energy and breathe a little bit of LA life into this
Mhm.
incredible untapped market and scene, and try to maybe help people who feel like they're a little disconnected from LA feel a little bit more connected. So there's a lot of people saying Atlanta's becoming like the new Vancouver
Hmm.
with all of the filming and everything. So many people relocating there. And Vancouver is one of those places, obviously, because it's Canada. It's not part of our country, so you can't just up and move there. But Atlanta, I think, is different because it is part of the U.S. And it is a place you can just up and move, and it's beautiful. You get so much more for your money there than you do here, that's for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
But but I do hope that LA starts to, have a little bit more filming. And, I hope that what's happening here in this city in Los Angeles shifts because I know there's a lot of people in production ever since the strikes that haven't quite recovered. um, there's not enough filming, and there's definitely just like just taxes and the cost of living is so high for everybody. I think the entertainment industry has just really been through it, and I think it's enough. So I hope that we can find some sort of happy medium where everybody is able to thrive and be
Mhm.
happy and get past all of this, pandemic and strike and all of the things we've all had to go through.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have so many friends, and even myself would got laid off from a job, and
Yeah.
just a tough time to the city's gone through now for several months now, and it breaks my heart too
Mm,
because there's such creative and wonderful people out here, and the
I
city is
know.
just yeah so wonderful that I'm with you. I hope that it really comes back alive and picks up and starts thriving again.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have you know, thoughts and feelings. I think there's a lot of people who are like, everyone's leaving or fleeing, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think a lot of people are just making necessary moves, I think, to better support their happiness and families and whatever that may be. But they go wherever the filming is. So if there's filming in Atlanta, you go to Atlanta. If you have to film in Europe, you go to Europe. So, hopefully, I just feel bad for the production crews because they don't really get to up and go anywhere. They always work with local crews whenever you film somewhere else. And so hopefully everything kind of evens out. I've always said if LA could somehow figure out how to regulate the cost of living, it would totally just everything would just mellow out and it wouldn't be. I think it would help with the crime. I think it would help with, creating more opportunities. Um, there's too much of a divide here right now, I think, with all of the things that have happened with inflation and strikes and still people recovering from the pandemic. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, on another note, when you were talking, I had a question. When you talked about
yeah.
sometimes when, an idea comes to you or something is telling you and you're kind of like almost thumped on the head. Are there things that you do in your life where we're all kind of now in this point where various people are going through changes and things like, are you a
Mhm.
meditator or do you journal, or what are ways that maybe you are there to like, okay, I'm getting this sign from the universe, or, ways that you kind of mentally handle
Mhm.
transitions, or, what you do.
Yeah, I've always been, I like to say I'm a very spiritual person. I was raised, um, I mean, being in the South, I was raised Baptist and went to church and all of that. And I still feel I still feel very connected to faith in that sense, but I'm also very open spiritually. I'm open to so many other different types of religions, and I've always been fascinated by it. But meditating and just really connecting with that intuition, using intuition to guide you has been a huge, I think, a huge steering force in terms of my success and in helping me make decisions and navigate what to do next in my life. I will say I haven't always listened to my intuition, and usually when I don't, that's when I find myself in a little bit of not in trouble, but going, I wish I had done something differently. Um, but it's interesting because intuition is something that we all have, and if we learn how to kind of tap into it and pay attention to the signs. I mean, I think I'm a huge believer in energy. I'm a big believer that, all of the answers that we're looking for are in front of us. Sometimes we're just too caught up in our own egos or drama to see it. But I do meditate daily. I try to at least give myself, even if I can't do like, 15 minutes, even just taking a moment to just breathe, and have gratitude. Gratitude is like, it's everything. Just being grateful for my health, being grateful that I have, you know, two really great parents who are alive and breathing, and I have great friends, and I'm grateful for my company. So I think the more gratitude you have, the more you attract in terms of abundance. I found something on Instagram the other day, and it was so fascinating because I think it said, um, if you're persistent, you'll get it. If you're consistent, you'll keep it. If you're grateful, you'll attract more of it,
Mm,
which I thought was so cool.
love that.
Yeah. And then there was another thing that I had seen on Instagram where it had said, you know, the ability to pause, notice, and choose is how you change your life. And so
Mm.
anybody I think that's going through a situation where they're uncertain, or it just feels like life feels a little too tumultuous, it's like you have to just be still, go to nature, go to a place that's peaceful, and just allow your intuition, allow like God or whoever it is that you believe in to kind of help steer you and guide you. And usually those answers come. But yeah, so to answer your
Mhm.
question, yes, I'm very spiritual. I'm actually also Reiki certified,
Oh, no way.
which, yeah, I'm a certified Reiki healer, which so many people, it's so funny because they envision publicists as being so crazy and neurotic, and like here I am, this like Reiki healer. I don't practice it for money, for any, I was fascinated by it because I see this amazing, I mean, gosh, she does more than I call her a healer. I think she is. That's the best way to describe her. Her name's Shahira Barnes, and she does Reiki and prana healing. She does like these beautiful like goddess circles. She's all about women's empowerment, and so I had found her coincidentally when I was I was starting to feel like, I know this might sound very like, for people who aren't into this, they call it like crunchy granola. But I started feeling
I love
like,
it.
I know, I do too. I know some people listening are probably going to be like, oh, these crunchy granola people, but those crazy people in LA. But I started to really, I could start to sense like that, like I'm a big, like I chakras, we all like the body has chakras, the earth has chakras. And I could start to sense when I was imbalanced. And so interestingly enough, I was actually dating this guy at the time. And I just felt like there was almost like a lump in my throat, and the relationship wasn't going well. And it's almost like I could not vocalize what I needed to say. And somebody said, oh, your throat chakra is blocked. And I was like, yeah, how do I fix that? How do we make that go away? And so I found Shahira, and that's when I started working with her. And she does Reiki certification and all of that. But ever since I started working with her and really allowing myself to kind of go in, I started to become more in touch with my body, and had always been fascinated by hands-on healing, even since I was little. I've had some kind of crazy supernatural things happen to me, and I'm one of those people. That's like a podcast for another day. We could do like a part two of like all the supernatural experiences that I've had.
I know. Now I
Um,
know. I want to know them.
yeah, like things that like knowing things about people and things that I shouldn't know. I was told I was an empath because I can sense things like if somebody's uncomfortable, I can feel it. If somebody's lying, like I get anxious, like my heart starts to beat really fast. Like it's almost like if somebody gets cut, I feel it. It's the strangest thing. And somebody said, "Oh, you're an empath. That's what an empath is." And so I became so good at it that like briefly was off. I was recruited by the FBI once upon a time. I know I never did it because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was me like, JJ from Criminal Minds, and
Yeah.
no, that's not that's not how it works. So, yeah, that was a blip. That was like a pre-PR, like what am I going to do with my life situation. Um, but it wasn't because I was like, like, oh, you did this with your hair and you look this way, and so I can read no, it was literally all intuitive. And there was an agent that I had met, a retired agent when I was cocktailing in New York as an actress, who literally said we would profile people when he would come into the restaurant,
Hmm.
and he was so taken aback by how I could read people. And he literally said, you could do this as a career. So call me if you ever want to change careers. And I was like, no, I'm a dancer. I'm going to be on Broadway, and I'm going to, no. And then my whole world came crashing down. I was like, where's his phone number? I'm going to call him up.
FBI
Um,
sounds good. Yes, let's do it.
yeah, FBI, sure. Meanwhile, my mother's like, you have lost your mind. But yeah, but it's weird because I think that was also another reason why I wanted to start my own company, because I'm very sensitive to energy and to like when people are just kind of like flipping out and not able to um navigate a situation. Like it bothers me to the point where I just don't feel like it's productive, and I kind of have to go like, okay, I have to go into my little zone of energy. I don't want to attract their anxiety, because it's like whatever they feel, it's like I end up feeling it too, and it's not a great feeling. It's like heavy and gross, and um so that was one of the reasons why I kind of went off on my own and started my own thing. And nothing against other publicists. I mean, we have such a stressful job. And for people who have like tons and tons of clients, especially like a lot of the like really big name clients, they're a lot of work. And a lot of these people, mostly women, interestingly enough, in our field, are trying to balance families and like relationships and lives. And there's a lot happening. And a friend of mine recently said, she's such a good she's a great friend, but she's a mom, and she literally said to me, it's really hard to be kind when you're tired. And I was like, oh, that's so true. So, when you're stressed and when you're tired, I think that's when people kind of lash out. And we do so much of our own stuff, like so much of our communication is done via email. So I think that's where people like lash out and say things that they kind of wish they hadn't.
Yeah.
It happens with the agents too. Like men get away with just they'll scream at each other and like tell someone to like F off, and then like 5 minutes later they're like playing golf. It's like what? It's the weirdest thing. But yes, I think, energy is something to really pay attention to. And I feel like as I become more and more open to it, and as I learn to kind of let go of fear and surrender, I'm finding that I'm like being blessed with like more more opportunities. It's kind of like when they say what you put out, you receive. So I think, I don't know, sometimes there's so much uncertainty. If you put energy into what you don't want, you will attract more of it. So I do try to find like when I have moments of like, like I just kind of like breathe and just let it go and just go like I'm along for the ride. I'm along for the ride. If it comes, let it. If it goes, let it. And always just trust that there's a bigger plan in play, and it's always going to work out for your good.
Mhm. For those listening out there right now that may want to pursue a career like you and get into public
Yeah.
relations, can you just talk about some of the duties that you do?
Oh my goodness. Well, it depends on it depends on what type of PR you do. I would say for us, we're primarily entertainment. So we work in personal publicity. So mostly actors, actresses, filmmakers, authors, experts, influencers, entrepreneurs. I also do indie films. We kind of dabbled with brands. It's not my strongest suit, and I don't love it. So usually, if somebody with a brand will come to us, I try to go like, well, why don't we look at like utilizing the person behind the brand, to promote. But in terms of what I do on a daily basis, we secure print and digital interview opportunities and magazines and online publications. We book our clients on talk shows, local talk shows, morning shows, national talk shows like Good Morning America and the Today Show, late night shows. We book them on podcasts. We walk them on red carpets when they have premieres and things that they need to attend. We help them find hair and makeup and stylists. Um, oh my goodness, we play damage control if they've gotten themselves into trouble and we need to fix things. We listen in on their interviews and just make sure everything's running smoothly. If somebody says something or gives a spoiler away, we'll hop in and, and say something, or, we'll email them afterwards and go, can you edit this out? If it's a live interview, there's not much that we can do. But we media train for those who have not had a lot of interview experience. And gosh, we're almost like kind of therapists
I bet.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, the list, how much time you got, JJ? Because I literally like we do so much. You have so many hats that you're wearing, and you're having to do so much all at once. And also like in addition to all of this, pitching and all of the things you're trying to do, you also have to keep everything buttoned up and organized. And we're usually dealing with so many different clients at once. So there's also like an organizational component that goes into it, like keeping like pitch lists and spreadsheets and documenting which editors are passing and not interested, and which ones are saying to come back to them. And um there's so many different layers of what we do. So it's not for the faint hearted. You definitely got to have thick skin. But yeah, if you have thick skin and a desire to help people, then I think you'll be okay if you're trying to make it in this world of PR. Yeah.
And what would you say are some of the things that maybe you've learned from the beginning of your career to this point now?
To be able to pivot, honestly, I think where everything we do, something could change in an instant. That's the crazy part about media. With media, who was it? Somebody said something, even with social media, they said something like a lie can spread faster than the truth can put its boots on, or something with social media. I don't know if you've heard that phrase. And so usually it's crazy because everything could be very calm one in one, at a certain time of day, and then on flip of a dime, somebody says something and then it catches fire, and then you're just like frantically trying to put out a fire, so to speak, and chase things. And um, yeah, it's definitely it's a lot at times.
Yeah, I'm sure that is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, let's pivot a little bit now. Let's
yeah.
talk about those two cuties that were going to make a cameo appearance. Your love for dog rescue and animals. You're
Yes.
a girl after my own heart with on your Instagram feed when so many of the posts are your dog. So I just love the dog mom life. So just talk about a little bit
Yeah.
about your your love of your furry friends.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I've loved dogs my entire life. It was literally like my first word. My mom said my first word when I was a baby was doggy. And she also said I growled before I could talk. So I was like, "Are you sure that wasn't like the inner publicist in me coming out?" Just kidding. No, but these precious dogs. I mean, I've always had dogs growing up. And then when I was in college, I got my first dog. It was a golden retriever. His name was Cody, and I got him from a breeder because I'd always wanted a golden retriever. And then he, I mean, that dog lived to be, he fought cancer, he beat it, he lived to be 15. He was incredible. And he was that dog that I had. I think I was 19 when I got him. And ended up when I got to LA, I ended up adopting this other little dog. Her name was Claire. She was this little white lab husky mix who was blind,
Oh.
and I had had her since she was a puppy. And so I had her and Cody together. And then when Cody passed, I got Hudson, who was my lab, who I just lost recently, which just tore my heart out. Um, but I've adopted another husky named Hope. Hudson I got from a rescue. So he was rescued by Southern California Lab Rescue, and then something happened there or something, I don't know, but I guess they thought he was aggressive and he became a liability. So the girl that I guess found him took him back, and then she knew I was interested in him, and so she called me and said, "Are you still interested in this dog?" Because I was trying to adopt him, and not to knock SCLRR, but they wouldn't let me have him because I lived in an apartment, which it was like immediately my application was like not, valid, despite the fact that I give them like pet insurance and take them on lots of walks and they
Yeah.
eat like fresh food and they go to vacations in five-star or five-star hotels. They get to go out to restaurants. Like they have a better life than some humans do.
Yeah.
But he was a rescue, and so I had him, and then Hope, Hope, who's my husky, I rescued from Siaka, which is a high kill shelter in Downey. And I had always, like supported rescues and followed rescues. But there's this really incredible woman named Sarah who I follow on Instagram. And I think her handle's like at Sailor Sarah. And she just posts, she does such incredible work. She's a volunteer. She has nothing to do with this. She doesn't work for the shelter. And she goes in on her own free time and starts to interact with all these dogs and then posts all the dogs that are on the high kill list and the dogs that are running out of time. And so I mean, as somebody who always loved dogs, I had no idea that there was such a shelter crisis in Los Angeles and just not only in LA, but everywhere. Um, and literally these just like beautiful, perfect dogs who were just dumped by their owners because they were moving or, um, you know, they didn't understand the breed or they just didn't have time to take care of it for, various reasons. But Hope I adopted because she was being abused in the parking lot. Sarah had witnessed her being abused, and so she literally spent her own money to take the dog from the owner because they were mad essentially because I guess the shelters make you pay a surrender fee and they didn't want to the owners at the time didn't want to pay for it. And so Sarah paid with her own money to have her at least admitted into the shelter, and then she was adopted out and then a year later came back. And so
Oh.
um, yeah, so long story short, I ended up adopting her the day they were supposed to put her down, and she has just been the most amazing dog. And then most recently, Bentley, crazy Bentley, is this precious dog. There's another girl named Jen Dodaro, and she does a lot of rescue work as well. And I had seen her posting and just pleading for this dog 'cause he's huge. Um, He's huge, and he was running out of time, and he was so dire in terms of needing to be rescued that she literally said, if you're interested, you've got to go. Like you have to go because he's they could I don't even know if he's still there. So I was so freaked out. I drove like 2 hours the next morning, kind of like, what am I doing? It was fairly soon after I lost Hudson, but I was just like, devastated. Um, and I can understand, that one, even though I had had three dogs, Hudson was my third dog that I had had who had passed away. You think like even, even though they're battling, like he had a colon tumor, and you think that because they're battling something like it, like you're braced for it and you know that it's coming and the passing like won't be as hard. And that was not the case. It was almost like I think he was the hardest of any of the dogs that I had lost. Um, but long story short, this crazy beast of a dog that I adopted, because he needed a home, has been such a joy, and he and Hope get along so well, and it's so funny like watching him experience things for the first time. Like I don't think he had ever had toys, so when I brought him home and I squeaked a toy, he was like, he was like freaked out by it. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Like all the treats that he gets, and he just looks like he's just like I love this life. This is
Yeah.
great. And so that makes me feel like, okay, I'm a good human. I did a good thing. It's still really hard. It's hard to look at pictures of Hudson. I can understand how people go through a loss like that and just can't get another one. I've always kind of, not to criticize people, but just thought like, oh, how could you not get another one? There's so many dogs that need a home, which is, the truth. But sometimes that pain is just, it's so much that people just can't do it. But I will say, you can never replace the dog that you've lost, but when you open your heart enough to let a new one in, you're surprised at how big your heart can expand. So it's been one of the most amazing. I mean, they've gotten me through like COVID, they've gotten me through like breakups, they've gotten me through so much in my life, the craziness of like my day, after coming home from work. But they really truly are gifts. They're such special beings. And I think all animals in their own way teach us something. So I try to kind of go through life and look at everyone as a teacher and kind of go, okay, what can I learn from this? Children teach us in their own ways with their little innocence, and dogs, cats, all animals do that as well. So there's a guy that I'm friends with he's a great musician. He was with this band called the Ivy Walls. His name's Jeff Gennaro. Do you know who that is?
Mm-mm.
The Ivy Walls. Their
I've
music's
seen the
really
Ivy
great.
Walls just on your feed, but I've never seen them in
Yeah,
person or anything.
great music. But he's such a dog lover, and he's been such an amazing friend to me. And and he's helped navigate. He's like a dog guru. He literally like knows everything about dogs. So if anybody is listening and they want to know anything about dogs, go follow the Ivy Walls. Jeff Pinero. He will tell you everything you need to know. But he's so connected in that space just because he's so passionate about it. He's worked with a lot of rescues. He's saved so many dogs, but he helped me, like when I had Hudson, who was going through issues, find this amazing holistic doctor in New York who was saving dogs that other people couldn't save. They're actually in a documentary on Amazon called The Dog Doc. It's a really good documentary. But yeah, it's so amazing like how many dogs are in a crisis right now with the rates at which they're being put down, what rescues need, how they're lacking in certain resources or certain, government funding. I mean, people just kind of turn a blind eye to it. It's kind of like, they don't want to see it, but it is a real problem. It's a problem with dogs being abused by homeless people on the streets. Um, there's so much happening, and there's so many great dogs. I mean, people would be surprised by how many even like purebred dogs are
Mhm.
in the shelters. Hudson being a purebred lab and Hope a purebred husky. People are like, wait, what? Those are rescues? Yeah, they're both rescues. So it's yeah, there are no words to describe dogs. They are a blessing, and if anyone is thinking about getting one, please go to a shelter and adopt a dog.
I completely agree with you. My dogs in my life
Yeah.
have just bought just the pure love and just the joy. Like you said, I learned so much from my dogs all my life. I have, and I every day just try to when I'm having a tough day, whatever, just like you, try to just think like, God, I just want to be like them. Just exude love and be happy and be grateful for this life, and it's all gonna be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, they do. They just make it, they're like the one being. I mean, I don't know. I'm probably biased to dogs, but they're always happy to see you. It's like they just don't have a care in the world. You give them a toy and they're happy. They just want to cuddle with you and give you love, and it's pretty incredible. And it's unfortunate that the amount of time that we have with them is so short, but I've also come to believe it's like they're like little angels on loan. They come here, they serve their purpose. They're with you during a certain part of your life that they're supposed to be with you for. They teach you your lesson and then they move on, and then it creates space for another one to come. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I think I can
Beautiful.
never imagine myself without a dog.
Yeah, I hear you.
Must love dogs.
Yes.
Yes, for any potential romantic interest, must love dogs, or
I
you're
hear you.
out.
Number one on the list.
Yep, yep. There's the door. Keep walking. You go.
Exactly.
Yep,
Agree.
yep.
Agree. All right. Well, before I let you go today,
Yep.
we'll do a quick little fun little talk about some of your top 5, 10, whatever, Tom Girl
Okay.
items. Like it can be anything that you recommend with fashion, entertainment,
Mm,
adventure, sports, like your best, workout, or I know you're a foodie too, so maybe your favorite like
mm.
place to travel and eat a great meal. Anything like that that
Okay.
comes to mind for you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll try to do five. Let's see.
You don't worry about the
Uh,
number, however many you want.
yeah, top place to escape for a vacation, Bernardus Lodge and Spa in Carmel. The most beautiful place you can imagine. Peaceful, incredible food, just a blissful, incredible experience. Spa, French fries, wine, dog friendly. It doesn't
Check,
get any
check.
better than that. Yep. Bernardus Lodge and Spa. As far as fashion, I mean, I love all fashion, but I'm a huge lover of all things Alexander McQueen. I consider myself a diehard McQueen girl. The team at the Rodeo store, Brandy Hall and Han, and I know all of them over there. I go to like I'm lucky enough to get invited to some of their like little events and things that they do, and I'm such a huge fan of that particular brand.
What is it you
So
love so much
fashion.
about?
The brand,
Yeah.
I think because it embodies like dark and light, and it empowers women. Like that when you put the clothes on, it just makes you feel like a badass, You just feel like, I don't know, you're a different person. Um, and I've even noticed like if I'm doing a red carpet, if I'll try to wear McQueen, and people talk to me very differently. People
Oh.
move when I wear McQueen. So it's a really great brand. And the people behind the brand are so nice. That's not always the case in fashion.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're not so nice. These people are incredible. So that's favorite fashion brand. Favorite restaurant in LA, hands down, Pache. Have you ever been?
Is that the one in Laurel Canyon?
Yes, it's
On the bottom of
so,
the
yes,
yes.
the most incredible. Like it's great food, it's chill, it's just good ambiance. And I mean, it's so funny. It's like you'll probably see more celebrities there than you would at any other restaurant, but like also nobody cares. It's a very safe space for them. So, everyone's just kind of in their own world eating and enjoying themselves, and just having a great meal and just great ambiance. I've been going there for years. It's my favorite place. Favorite workout, Marnie Alton, embodied by Marnie Alton. So she is this incredible trainer who she had a studio pre-pandemic and then had to pivot to virtual during COVID. And then now she's just all virtual. She does some private training for celebrities, and she's worked with like Jennifer Aniston and Jennifer Love Hewitt and all these incredible, beautiful, physically fit actresses. And she's just like a heart of gold. All of her stuff is online. So I think it's embodiedbymarniealton.com. And you can have like you pay a monthly fee and you have access to all of her workouts. And she does this really cool meditative thing at the end of it. So I think hands down. And I will say that when I started doing her workouts, my body changed quickly, and like in a way that running on a treadmill like hours and hours a week could never do. So,
Nice.
embodied by Marnie
Marking that
Olson.
down.
Yeah, write that one down. And then, gosh, that was what, four? And then it's another one.
You don't have to do 5 either. I just
Yeah.
Those all were fantastic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm just like I just dogs. Like just like my like those are my top five loves of life, you know? Just dogs. Just being able to like have like peace and quiet and sit outside on, a patio or in nature and be with my dogs.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite things. Oh, I will say there's one more other place that I have to plug. Have you heard of Vintage Wine and Eats in Studio City?
No. Mm-mm.
Vintage is another great spot. They have really, really good food. It's not a place that you would expect to see in Studio City. It looks like something kind of like out of Europe or even like,
Mm.
maybe like Silver Lake. It's so good, and they have all of their wines are um are from like what do you call them? Micro producers, like micro winery, like people like just small independent producers. So there's not like wines that you can go buy in a store. But Rebecca is the owner and she's so sweet. And it's one of those places that you just walk into. It's like Cheers. Like they know who
Mm.
you are. It's a safe space for women to go, or men, or whoever, to just go sit and not be bothered and just have a good time. So, and that one's dog friendly too. So
Oh, I'm gonna have to have a date with
you
Rue. We're
gotta
going.
go. You gotta go. Yeah, those are I would say like my loves, my top
Oh,
loves of all the
awesome. Thank
things.
you for sharing those. Those
Yeah.
all sound amazing.
Yeah.
Where can people, well, first, thank you so much I could
Yeah.
talk to you for, I could keep going. It's so great hearing all this.
I know.
Um, but where could, so I appreciate you taking the time to do this today. I know you're really busy. Where
Of
can
course.
everybody follow your company, keep track of you, follow the dogs? Where can they keep up with your
Yeah.
adventures?
Probably at Marque PR. So at MARQUE PR on Instagram. We've got that little blue verified check so they'll know it's us. And yeah, that's probably my Instagram's private. So I'm very like, I don't know, I'm very private person. But you, JJ, of course, you are on there. But yeah, just at Mark PR, and we're always posting things that our clients are doing, and that's the best way to keep up with us.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Just so
Yeah,
many, yeah, so very interesting. Such a great journey. And so best of luck in Atlanta.
thank you.
I hope you just love it too. And your business just keeps growing and growing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. All right, everybody. That is it for this week. Thank you so much for following on. You can look at us everywhere on social media at TOMGIRL TV, and we will see you here again next time. Have a great one.